All right, at this time, we want to welcome you to yet another edition of Game TV. Game TV is the media platform of the grassroots alternative movement. And as we always say here, the grassroots alternative movement is a pro democracy and political advocacy organization that is in the business of advocating for not only Liberians, but a better Liberia for all of us to be proud of the country that we all collectively loved. In this special edition, two outstanding leaders from the grassroots alternative movement are comfortably seated. We are here to do an analysis on a subject I will be bringing to your attention. But before we do that, let me bring in a gentleman who is a leader at this institution, Mr. Josiah Joekai. He loves this stuff. Joe, welcome. Another edition. I'm happy to be here. I do not know about you.
Oh, me too. I'm happy to be here as always. It is a pleasure, Anthony, to be here on Game TV. Like you rightfully said, Game TV is the media platform of the grassroots alternative movement, and we are proud to be a part of this vision. I'm so happy this morning to be on with my dear brother Sizi for us to talk about some of the political issues in our country. But I'd like to sound a disclaimer while we're going into the conversation that Game is in no way here indicating support for any of the would-be candidates in the CPP primaries. We are here to do an analysis of what's happening inside the CPP, because as a pro-democracy political advocacy institution, it's our responsibility to share light on some of the political issues in our country. To be able to chart a course that will help our compatriots to make the best decisions, which is good for our country. That is why Game takes serious interest in the conversation. And we will be having this friendly chat as we always do on our platform on Saturday mornings. So it's really good to be here.
Thank you, Joe. Also comfortably seated, a leader of the grassroots alternative movement is Mr. Sizi Goyah. He and I share something in common. We are Minnesotan. We are in the 10,000 legs. Things have been challenging for us, but we are strong. Sizi, welcome. Another edition.
Appreciate you, my brother. It's always good to be coming to you from these great lakes. Not 10,000 though. We just try to let people feel good, but it's more than 10,000. We just want to round it down so Joekai and other people who live in landlocked states can be happy a little bit. But on a serious note, it's always wonderful to be here to share what I know with my people. Again, one of the biggest thing is I like the disclaimer that my brother Joekai just put out there, because in Liberian politics, we tend to be very tribal, very vicious. We tend to be very vicious for our political leaders. So Game is in no way endorsing any group or any party, any person. This is just an analysis. Again, I like to usually use the slogan that Sati brother used to use, right? When it's from Sati, it's got to be good. Well, I want to flip that a little bit around. Once it's for Liberia, we'll accept nothing less than great. And so that's why we always here on Game TV, because it's about Liberia. It's for Liberia, and we got to make sure we are accepting nothing less than great.
Thank you so very much, folks. Let me now bring to you why we are here to analyze our topic. Actually, it's right here. The CPP primary matchup, Ambassador Boakai versus Cummings. And like we try to tell you, this is an analysis. This is an analysis. Grassroots alternative movement, as an institution, is not taking side, but we want the best for Liberia, and so we want to do an analysis on what we see to be more like a primary matchup in the CPP. So for the segment of this discussion, these are the things that we will be looking at. Number one, we'll be looking at experience, qualification, and suitability for the job. We'll be looking at national and international appeals for the candidates. We will also be looking at public perception and the numbers. We all love numbers. At the end of the day, The numbers will do the trick. And finally, we will look at who has or can raise the money to get the job done. And a Cuban, he controls the national coffers. Who has the money? Who can raise the money to go against that Cuban? The state is set, folks. Let me put myself in the middle as I listen to the analysis of these brilliant minds from Liberia. Gentlemen, our first segment here, which is experience and qualification. This is my first question. Boakai and Cummings, who is better qualified for the job? And for this one, I will start with you, Mr. Sizi.
Well, I appreciate that. I think this is a loaded question. I think qualification has dimensions, and both candidates have their pluses and minuses depending on what dimensions you're looking at. If we're looking at longevity in government and knowing how government works and knowing, like in American politics, what they say when that 2 a.m. phone call comes. Remember that stuff that went against Hillary Clinton, right? When that 2 a.m. phone call comes, who do you want picking up the phone? If you're looking at a government that starts from the beginning with the top already knowing every way on how to proceed when we have a crisis from day one, then we give that to Joe Boakai, because Joe Boakai has been in the halls of government for a long time and quite recently serving as the vice president of the Republic of Liberia. But if we're looking at investment, looking at dealing with multi-billion dollars industry and trying to make sure that we can make an economy that is based on the workforce, then we have to look at Cummings, because Cummings' track records at Coca-Cola. As the vice president of Coca-Cola and dealing with over $3 billion investment in expansion of the company, then I have to give him that. So depending on what we're looking for, again, that's where the voters come in, right? What qualification are we looking for? What dimension of qualification are we looking at? Are we looking at somebody who we think can bring more jobs based on their track record working in the private sector that can be able to create this public-private partnership? Or are we looking at somebody who we say, look, man, look what happened in the Ivory Coast right now with the Ivorian government saying 3 Liberians went to attempt to overthrow a government and our government is silent. Who do we want on the phone in office to handle that? Depending on which one of those things mean the most to you, you will determine who is the most qualified. But in either case, I think qualification has dimensions. And if I break it down into those 2 dimensions, Joe Boakai will be very qualified when it comes to needing that person on day one to answer that 2 a.m. call. But Alexander Cummings will be the most qualified when it comes to creating that public-private partnership to create a booming economy for workers.
And Sizi, before I bring Joe in, you say Joe Boakai is the guy who will be better qualified to answer the call at 3 a.m. Don't forget the age factor. That's the time maybe the old man can be taking a nap.
I don't want to be an ageist because depending on what you did the night before, you might fall asleep even at 6 o'clock. I've seen 23 years old fall asleep at 6 o'clock. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that Joe Boakai, in the 40 odd years that he worked in government, has created a roller deck, so to speak, of people, of contacts, of situations, and has been placed in situations. So he has that lived experience to know how to handle a crisis, like, for example, that's happening in the Ivory Coast, or a crisis, for example, that's happening in Ibakante with land dispute, right? Because you would not have to go to the drawing board to create the wheel. Now, I'm not saying that Alexander Cummings might not surround himself with people that will understand that. I'm just saying that he will have to create the wheel from start. Whereas Joe Boakai will already have that wheel created.
Thank you so very much. And Mr. Joekai, let's bring you in. The 2 of them, we're looking at, they are all qualified, constitutionally speaking, I think in terms of experience as well, but who is better qualified for the job, given the time we are in now?
I'm glad that you underscore the time that we find ourselves in. That is very significant. And let me, just before I dive into the issue of qualification and who's best suited, let me just add that when Sizi talked about the 2 a.m. call pickup, he was not talking about the physical. That whether Boakai will be slipping and when the call comes, he picks it up or he misses the call. I think he brought into perspective the experience, the long-term experience, and readiness to be able to attend to the call when the call comes. That's what he actually meant, I think, from my own perspective. But let me just add that here we are talking about two interesting characters, and this is CPP politics we're talking. And I always like to give the reminder of the disclaimer while we discuss. These are two interesting personalities. Joe Boakai has this long-standing experience, running government, and also he has been able to acquire the knowledge and experience to be able to govern for the many years he served the Liberian government at different times. He has the political capital. In short, that's what I can say. He has the political capital. So Cummings is also competent. He's qualified because he has the long-standing corporate leadership capabilities that he brings to the table. That makes CPP well situated. I wanted to give that perspective right now as far as our body politic is concerned in the opposition community, because they have all of these people with the capitals that are required to be able to run for the office and be able to lead in a way probably that Liberians are seeking. So Cummings comes from the corporate world, and he has this serious or strong corporate leadership capital that Joe Boakai doesn't have, despite his long experience in politics. Joe Boakai also has a serious political capital, so it makes the two of them competent to run for the post, for the office. It makes them qualify to run for the office, despite some of the excesses that they've had along the way, and as him on some of those things would be expected. Probably we can talk about some of those later, but it's not a place for us to judge them. Is something for the voters to decide. Interestingly, if that is what they will consider when they are voting at the primary level in CPP and also at the national level, because these are two different levels we're talking about. Favorability at the national level and favorability inside the CPP is a different thing altogether, and the CPP politics at this time. But what I can say is that if anyone has to be ready on day one to pick up the 2 a.m. call, is going to be Joe Boakai. I agree with Sizi on that. It's going to take some time for Cummings to get used to picking up the 2 a.m. call. It will take some time, even if he will want to become president, because he will have to understand the political dynamics for some time when he takes over. And also, depending on his enablers or his handlers, he could be a fast learner to be able to pick it up. But when it comes to making sure that government is not that body that provides jobs for the people, instead, government creates the enabling environment for the government and the private sector to work together effectively for job creation, for Liberians to have the kind of job, as anticipated, is going to be Cummings, So that's why the CPP has these two people, and it is critical to make the decision who has the ticket. But I would say if Joe Boakai, if it is about being ready on day one of the job, it's going to be Joe Boakai based on his long-term experience.
Well, thank you so very much. You guys talking about the 2 a.m. I know folks in the ANC will say, but what this guy's talking about, that, Joe Boakai is the one who will answer the call, and this Cummings, Mr. Cummings, who has been the corporate war, where CEOs have to make executive decisions. I mean, what executive experience does Boakai brings that Cummings does not have, for which he can pick up the call? I know some of them are going to say that. Well, let us come to our next question here, gentlemen. We just dealt with, qualification. I don't know whether or not this question is similar, but we were, heavily on qualification and experience. They all do. We can make that point, first of all, but we're looking for the right experience and the best experience for the job. And again, I emphasize, given the time we are in and given how high the stakes are. Joe, you will start with this one.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure this question is very different from the one we just addressed, the very first question as far as...
So then I'll give you 1 minute because I have more questions for you guys.
as far as experience and qualifications are concerned, we just dealt with that topic decisively. And again, I will repeat. Look, they both have strong leadership capabilities, but they come from two different worlds. Boakai has been he's a diplomat. I mean, he's a politician. But in terms of running a corporate institution, I'm not sure he's as strong as Cummings. I will underscore that very well. But when it comes to understanding how government works and how to respond to issues that come from the different dimensions, different spheres of government, I think Boakai will be ready to give a yes answer as quickly as possible compared to Cummings. Equally so, Cummings' focus will be on investments, which is good because when you want to have a good economic standing, it's about lifting the economic life of your individual citizens. Economists will tell you that. So you have to create the environment for sound and effective economic activities, and Cummings will be ready to bridge that gap between the government and the private sector. And that's the best way, giving experience from across the globe.
And Joe, let me push you here. We are talking about the right and the best. Quickly, so I can get to Sizi. Who of the two has the right and the best experience given the time?
Give me our timeline, our political setting. Boakai will be the right person to take.
All right. Let me bring in Sizi. And Sizi, you two are 1 minute, the right and best. They all do have the experience, but who has the right experience? Who has the best experience given the time we're in?
So one thing I want our audience to understand is that experiences can be both negative and positive, right? So Joe Boakai has been in government for a long time. He has those experiences, and it serves both as a positive and a negative. It's been an albatross on his neck that for so long he's been in government. What has he done? The same thing with Eric Cummings. One of the gripes I had with Eric Cummings when he ran it last time was, look, you've had Coca-Cola factory. As a matter of fact, we named an entire enclave in the city of Painesville after Coca-Cola. Where you going? I live in Coca-Cola factory area, right? But Coca-Cola factory had not been able to even provide safe sanitary drinking water for the people in that area. Even one school was not built. It was after we started that when Cummings started to run that they built that STEM school and named after him, right? So experience can have both negative and positive effect. But for me, where we stand right now, the kind of a government we need right now is a government that is not hiring the majority of the workforce. The kind of a government we need right now is a government that is able to attract investment and attract investors so that our people are not dependent on government, so that their political capital or their political independence is not compromised. Because as it is right now, if you work in a government and you're not for that political party, and this has nothing to do with George Weah, this has been going on for a long time. If you work in any government and you're not for the ruling party, you end up losing your job. That's why you find a lot of people keep flipping and flopping all around from political party to political party. The way to get rid of that, the way to create political independence is to create a physical and economic independence. And for me, for right now, where we are right now, the best person would be Alexander Cummings, because he will be able to create that $1 billion economy to attract investors, to create that independence that we need to move forward as a young and fledgling democracy.
Well, thank you, Sizi. Talking the talk is different, and walking the talk sometimes becomes challenging, and that's why we see throughout history, Cummings is on record for saying, "I want to raise the budget up to $1 billion." Well, should he get that chance, we will see. Gentlemen, my next question, Boakai and Cummings, who is more poised to win the primary and why? And I'm going to start with you, Joekai, on this one. Who going to win the primary and why would that person win the primary?
Anthony, we cannot discuss this without the history of the CPP. And the CPP politics is so entangling, is so interesting. In the aftermath of the bruise that the opposition got during the 2017 elections, these guys came together. When I say guys, I'm talking about the 4 political parties came together and took stock and felt that the affiliate keys of each of them running on separate tickets and not running together to be able to take the victory at the end of the day. So it is a commitment they made. It is a goal that is set that this has to be collectively done. And that is why they are where they are today. The CPP has some of the best politicians with the capital once the amalgamate that is required to give them the presidency. And you got people like DeLon, who has emerged as a new star. Monserrato, he's strong. He sits pretty. You have Nyombli Kanga from Grand Bassa and still enjoy, the successes of the late Bromsky. So from the Liberty Party perspective, you have Alexander Cummings that we just talked about, who is also a brilliant individual, somebody also competent to become president. You also have Joe Boakai, who happens to be somebody with the highest political capital in the CPP. So that makes the CPP very rich when it comes to preparing itself for the task. The two front runners, I will agree with you and other Liberians that the two front runners for the primary in the CPP are Joe Boakai and Alexander Cummings. Notwithstanding, there is a third dimension that comes from the gender perspective, Nyombli, who is being pushed to also contest. I know that she has some political capital, but not as compared to the two we're talking about. So the two are certainly poised. One is poised to come head of the ticket. But let me tell you how that is going to play out. We can't just call names without looking at the political play in the CPP. It's going to play out interestingly because one of the political parties, the ALP, which is strongly supportive of Joe Boakai, might not feature a candidate and might just probably try to encourage its delegates to vote for Joe Boakai, interestingly, even though they would be making independent decision, but the likelihood is highly that they might support Joe Boakai. If you look at the Liberty Party...
And Joe, quickly, will it be on the basis of delegates? Is that how the framework...
Yes. Okay. Yes, that's the primary situation. The way it's going to work, there will be regulations and guidelines, and those regulations and guidelines will speak clearly to the step-by-step procedures for the holding of the primary. And one of those procedures will be for each party to bring certain number of delegates to the convention or to the primary. When the
an equal number, right?
Yes, because they are the four constituent political parties. So when they get there, the delegates will then vote for the candidates in the primary election. That's how it's going to work. So now the candidates, you will have to work as hard as possible to be able to get across the aisle to get support from the other constituent political parties. But I'm giving you the dynamics inside the CPP as it stands from our own perspective. That, hey, the ALP political leader had made it clear over and over that he's going to support Joe Boakai in that respect. I don't know if it is the right or wrong thing that he's been doing or how, to what extent it hurts the arrangement, but I think he's been making that for some time. He's on record for that. The other thing with the Liberty Party is that the Liberty Party might feed a candidate. I don't know how realistic that candidate support is going to be from the Liberty Party, but the Liberty Party is going to feed a candidate in that particular race, which happens to be Nyombli. They've talked about it openly, that they're pushing that. And the former president, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, is the interesting dimension.
And Joe, before you continue, how could Nyombli be thinking about running when DeLon is, does it mean the Liberty Party going to put forth for two candidates from their side? Because DeLon spoke through his chairman, his diaspora chairman, he had told that he will be a candidate.
I don't know about that yet, but I know that DeLon has also been speaking about supporting the political leader of the Liberty Party. And that will be a confusion for me if he is, I want to say at the 11th hour, because just a few days ago, he made a strong indication on social media that he strongly supports his political leader and he will stand by his party. He knows that they have good people in the CPP, but doing that is his commitment and his responsibility to the party. So as far as I'm concerned, that he will be supporting Nyombli in that direction. Don't forget that Ellen has been holding series of meetings with Nyombli and DeLon, and and the chairman, ability. What those discussions have been, I don't know. But Ellen is on the record for clearly saying that there's a need to push a female candidate from the gender perspective. For in my opinion, Ellen's statement is just a distraction. And if the CPP is not careful, it could be the pathway to disintegration, because she may push that as a distraction. And
Joe, Joe, let me hold you there, Joe. Please hold your thought there. Joe?
Yes.
Please hold your thought there. This is what I see with the Ellen, and you can tell me whether or not you see that. Ellen controls DeLon, Nyomli, and I can say for Ability. I see Ability enjoying a good relationship with Cummings. We've seen them very lately. And so what I'm seeing is that Ellen is doing all this to lend support to Cummings. I think that's what he's doing. I mean, that is what she's doing. So, and she hurt Joseph Boakai the last time. I think she's going to do it again. I mean, if she was in Boakai's corner, she should have met Boakai by now and maybe having conversation. But she chose to go to the Liberty Party. And like I said again, DeLon, Nyomli, and Ability, they are very close to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. I think the madam is there to push a Cummings agenda. That's what I see. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, granted that your statement is true. However, I want to also reference the indication of pundits. Pundits have repeatedly said over and over that Ellen is engaged with the Liberty Party, not really with the CPP, which is supposed to be the case, because she's supposed to be engaging with the political leaders of the CPP in an open manner in which that will not leave no room for speculation. So many Liberians are speculating that this is her playbook. This is probably a repeat of what happened in 2017. But the point I'm trying to make here is that they could easily break the support of the Liberty Party. And because some of the delegates will be independent as much as they will be making institutional decisions, probably some of the delegates will decide to support Cummings, or some will decide to support Nyomli if she runs, or support Boakai. So they may break the Liberty Party support to the candidates in that respect. So at the end of the day, if Boakai is to get enough support from the ALP in terms of the delegates and get some support from the Liberty Party, then he could be poised to win. Notwithstanding, if the Liberty Party decides to take institutional decision to support Alexander Cummings and that Nyomli doesn't run, then Joe Boakai has something to worry about, because you also have independents in the ALP that might also decide to make some decisions. So the thing is not a clear-cut picture in terms of whether or not Boakai will win because of his long-standing political experience or favorability among the national voters. That's a national issue. That's why I indicated that discussing Boakai's support from the national perspective is different from discussing his support inside the CPP. That's a different ballgame altogether. So decision will not be made inside the CPP probably on the basis of that. So the both of them, any of the two, is poised to actually lead the CPP or to get on the top of the CPP ticket.
Thank you. Wow. Well, great analysis there. Let me bring in Mr. Goyah here. Sizi, again, the same question. Who is more poised to win the primary and why? Knowing that the primary process will be done through delegates. Money will be played. Will it be Cummings? Will it be Boakai? And why? Your challenge. Give us some analysis.
Well, has the PPP resolved the issue of Nebakante yet? Because that's for me. You know, I'm a student of history.
Okay.
The issue between Edith Gonglo and Tai Wongbe, which led to the CPP losing their seat in Nebakante, by the way. Right. It is the same situation in Mosorado County, District Number 9, with Fubi Franklin. And 4 other people running that were from the CPP. As a matter of fact, James Salisa Diba, a personal friend of Senator DeLon, was running on a Liberty Party ticket, even though the Liberty Party, as a member of the CPP, endorsed and ran Fubi. So for me, the CPP has not done enough cleanup to allow anybody to make a really good statistical judgment on who will win the leadership or to be at the top of the ticket. One big thing I keep one thing we need to get off right away is that there are people who always say, well, look at the last elections. Cummings didn't do well. He didn't even do well in Maryland County, where he's supposed to be from. And the ANC did not even win one House seat until Yeke Kolba, after winning his election, flip over to become ANC. But one thing I would want those people to realize is that, yes, back then, it was a different calculus. We were looking at Ellen Johnson Sirleaf leaving a vacant space, and everybody running in. Now we have the George Weah factor. George Weah has shown up, and he's made a lot of people to become capable and available because of his missteps or his great steps, whatever way you want to call it. He's created a situation where a Cummings now is more viable than the Cummings in 2017. Because in 2017, it was a whole different political calculation, a whole different playing field. The next thing I want folks to understand is that going back to Nimba County is money, political diversion, and these gymnastics that people do as delegates makes it so difficult for anybody to sit and say, well, this person is going to win and this person is not going to win. If you're looking for a kiss, look at Tiawongbe and Ide Gongo in Nimba County. That unfortunately led to even bloodshed, right? So for me, if the CPP, look, the biggest thing I'm concerned about of the CPP is after the primaries, not during the primaries. Is can they hold after the primary? Because
Sizi, let me bring the my Ellen factor to your knowledge here. I continue to bring to you guys' attention. We all know this woman.
Yeah.
She did it to Boakai. I am fearing she will do it again. And mind you now, Sizi, she is still a member. There are people in the Unity Party that look up to her. She can make commitment to them or make promises or give assurances for the future for political dividend, though people must see her that yes, she will deliver because she always does, right? And that means that she'll be taking a lot of delegates from Boakai. So this thing here is going to it will come to money at the end of the day. It will come to power play at the end of the day. And so Boakai should be worried here.
And that's a good point you're making. Because within the Unity Party, within Boakai's own, look, if there is one political party that's really, really united and viciously and angrily united in the CPP is the ANC. And I mean that viciously and angrily united. It almost feels like a court. And I mean that with all respect. That if you go after Cummings or you go after one credible ANC partisan, man, don't log on to your Facebook account for like 5 years. because you will be touched, right? So, but if you look, so for good or for bad, Cummings has that. There's nobody breaking up the ANC delegates. There is not a power play possible within the ANC. But if you look at the Unity Party, like you rightfully said, you still got people like Jeremy Pierre. That is still with the Ellen group. It's almost like they still have a Ulimo J and a Ulimo K within a Ulimo, right? So you still got a Unity Party Boakai and a Unity Party Johnson still within a Unity Party. So if Boakai cannot even be assured of the delegates from his own political party, that is going to create a problem. And the biggest thing here, look, I wanted to bring back is in politics, because, as a politician, 2 years is a lifetime in politics. 2 years.
I agree.
So let us not forget the Yombli Kanga effect. Let us not take that for granted.
Which way should we go?
We saw what DeLon was able to do in raising money in this diaspora. The Lord has been able to create that purse to sit on top of. He has a following. So we cannot think of the Liberty Party of today like the Liberty Party of yesterday of the late Senator Brooks.
So she said, which party will be deciding here?
So the party that we have to look at that would deliver the candidacy for either Boakai or for Cummings, for me, it's not an ALP. For me, it's the Liberty Party. It's the LP. And I think the LP is playing the power, they're playing a power game here. They're playing a game of chess. While the other parties are playing checkers. They're playing chess because they know that they want to be second on whatever ticket. Yombli Kanga is not playing her cards to be president right now. And Senator DeLong is not playing his card to be president right now. They're being their dark horse. And whichever political organization, be it the Unity Party or the ANC, that is able to grasp the Liberty Party, they win the endorsement, they win the candidacy, they win the top of the CPP party, bar none. Because they have the numbers. And they will come with money also. The LP, I mean, the ALP don't come with money, they come with delegates. But the LP, with the Ellen factor, will come with both delegates and money. And we know what money does in the Liberian body politics, right?
Gentlemen, we have to go to the next question here, Joe. I know. I mean,
no, I just want to do something shortly to that, and that's exactly the analysis that I made from the outset. That the Liberty Party is going to be a factor. It's going to be a serious. It's going to be a serious factor. I also told you about the Ellen dimension, and if you read my article that I did like 3 days ago, right now analysis, you just play into it. I made a very strong case that you must not downplay the role of the Liberty Party in the primaries. It's going to be very, very important, and that is why Boakai will have to look out on a serious note, because you have the Ellen playbook right there that's in play, and you can underestimate that by any measure. What the Liberty Party is seeking here is to become number 2 on the ticket, and whichever way they can work with any of the two to get such commitment, that's the way they're going to go. Liberty Party is seeking a second place on the ticket. That's what they are seeking. Yombli Kanga is not seeking to be at the top of the ticket. That's not what she's seeking. What they are seeking indirectly is for the Liberty Party to have a place. And if they will have a place, a second place on the ticket, the determination is going to be made by them, whether or not it should be Yombli herself second on the ticket, or it should be DeLon on the ticket. So Joseph Boakai has a lot. He has an uphill battle right here. And it is true, in the Unity Party, you have good number of partisans who are still very committed to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. They see her as a savior. They are committed to her. Many of them, their votes will depend on her advice, her direction. They're going to be guided by that. In the ALP, there are some people, like I said, will vote independently. There are those who will definitely be bought over. So the game here is being strongly played by the ANC, and the ANC is working closely with the Liberty Party. And many even think that it is because of this discussion we're having today that somebody like Belete was brought on board to chair the party, because he would be best suited to lead such negotiations and to lead the Liberty Party and the ANC commitment. So at the end of the day, it's not going to be indicated here right now, but it's going to be at the end of the day, whether or not it's DeLon that Liberty Party will push to represent her as second on the ticket, or it's Nyombli that Liberty Party will push to represent her as second on the ticket. But that's what they seek. And Ellen supports that very strongly. So Boakai has an uphill battle. Let me repeat, as much as he might be suited to lead the ticket, but that doesn't come without getting the votes from the delegates. You have to get the votes from the delegates. Money is going to play to sway many of those voters that's supposed to be in his corner over to the ANC because of Ellen's role. She's not taking this for granted. And the Liberty Party is not taking this for granted. The Liberty Party is in it to be on the ticket. But it's not indicated right now as to who in the Liberty Party will be on the ticket. That's a second-tier discussion. Right now, what they want is to secure that. And I'm sure such discussion is going on between the Liberty Party and the ANC for such commitment, so that at the end of the day, when they get it, the deal is done. And they will make a determination whether or not is Nyombili to go or is DeLong to go on the ticket.
Thank you. Great analysis. Folks, you are watching Game TV. Game TV is the media platform of the Grassroots Alternative Movement. The Grassroots Alternative Movement is a pro-democracy and political advocacy organization. I am a proud member. Joekai is, Mr. Sizi Goyah is. If you like what we do here and you wish to be a part, look above me. Look above me. Which way? Which way? This way? Oh, I'm just trying to kill you. So look above me. You see the website, www.gameliberia.org. There's a place there you will see join the movement. You can join us. We are not a political party, but we are politically active individuals involved in advocacy, having discussion, substantive discussion for the forward march of our country. We encourage you to join us. Let's do this together. I think we have the guts, we have the experience to do this. Well, let's come to our next segment here. Our next segment is national and international appeal. Oh, what a great section. And you guys are going to enjoy the analysis from these great guys. And they are right. At the end of the day, it will come to money. Delegates are hungry. Liberians are hungry in Liberia. Money will have a huge impact. But gentlemen, we need to take a short break. When we come back, we'll go into that segment. All right, folks, we are back with you here at Game TV. Let me bring my outstanding panelists here. Let me put myself in the middle as I enjoy, these great analysis from the two key leaders of the Grassroots Alternative Movement. Gentlemen, we are back. Our next segment, national and international appeal. The war is a global village now. But hey, all politics, they say, are local. So we will deal with the national and then we'll look at the international dimension. For that, gentlemen, my first question, Boakai and Cummings, who has more national appeal and more relatable? Who can the Liberian people relate to more? Who name and credentials appeal to the Liberian people more? Joe, you give it a shot.
Okay. Interestingly, we're discussing CPP politics, but this is the national dimension, which is very significant because at the end of the day, they're going to be running for national office. So this is a very good question in that regards. Look, Boakai has a strong national favorability. And this is because of his long-standing role in national government, which is obvious that definitely he has to meet and interact with citizens at various levels. He has to meet and interact with leaders at various levels of the government. And that has made his name stronger for a long time in terms of name recognition at the national level. But you also have positives and negatives in that respect, because people will ask questions, what do they know him for? People have different perspectives from the way they see it. But when it comes to that translating into votes between the two of them, Boakai has a strong, a favorable standing compared to Cummings when it comes to their national recognition translating into votes. And the votes that they've gotten from the last elections, and I'm speaking from my own experience with election management and the voting trend in Liberia, those numbers are not going to shift significantly. They might not shift significantly. Boakai, 400,000 plus votes that he got, is actually going to shrink just a little bit, downward a little bit, or go up a little bit, depending on how he's going to project himself going to 2023. Cummings, 100,000 plus votes that he got, that is going to shrink just a little bit or go up a little bit, but not to the point that would definitely pull the results that's needed. So,
but Joe, talking about the 400,000 votes that Ambassador Boakai got, people are saying those votes were not all his votes. People from the ANC who decided not to vote for Goyah, people from the Liberty Party and all other parties, they chose to vote for Ambassador Boakai. That is how he got that number. So the total number can be for him. Do you agree?
Josiah Boakai ran the first round. You know the number of votes that he got. The first round, ANC was in a race. Liberty Party was in a race. Around the same number of votes he got in the first round. You have to understand that. And then when he went into the runoff, that number did not change significantly. So even the issue of support from ANC or other political parties, I'm not sure that was stronger. Otherwise, he might have contended strongly or even won Goyah in the runoff, but that was not the case. So we can leave that for a different day to delve into the reality of whether or not he got support from those other people that actually, you know, gave him to maintain that range of votes that he got in the first round, to maintain that in the second round. But I will tell you that those numbers will not change significantly. The reason is simple. Each of these politicians that have been around for some time have their own constituency. You will not take the order votes from Joseph Boakai. You won't take that. You won't take that from him. Cummings, you will not take predominantly votes of the young people from Cummings. You won't take that easily from him. They're going to maintain that to a larger extent. So those upward and downward movements will not be that significant. So the national level recognition, we have to discuss it from the perspective of translating to votes, because this is why we are making the analysis. It's not just about saying, you know, Boakai has a favor amongst voters, or has favor amongst voters, and let it loose. What we're trying to do is to tie it to how successful they will be at the end of the day when it comes to them being voted. And as it stands right now, in terms of favorability nationally, Joseph Boakai is higher. I think he got some numbers there that are higher than what Cummings will have in terms of favorability at the national level. Notwithstanding, they also have some negatives at the national level. People will be looking at what some of their excesses have been. So that recognition is both for the positives and the negatives.
All right. Thank you. Sizi, we're talking about national appeal. Who can the people relate to more? And because of time, I'm going to give you the next question here also, so you can tie them together. You know, who has or will have more international appeal as well?
Let me start from where Joekai ended with the numbers. One thing that I hope my brother takes into account and other political pundits take into account is that the last election of 2017, we almost cannot use any data from that election because there were so many unknowns, so many changing factors. George Weah, the unicorn, George Weah has appeared. Now the unicorn is real. So now that has created a whole different political dimension in the country. Initially, when George Weah was running, it was about, well, you know, he has international appeal, he plays soccer, he will bring all these people, he'll do that. People wanted to see what George Weah could do. And because people were so hungry to see what George Weah could deliver based on his international appeal and his stardom. Folks like Eric Cummings, who were appealing to the same group of people, the young people, lost out to George Weah. Now George Weah has to appear for good or for bad. People by 2023 will have an exact idea of his abilities or his inabilities, his capabilities or his incapabilities. And so I think based on that, that changes the entire calculus on whether Joseph Boakai, again, staying in politics long is a good thing, but sometimes it's also a bad thing. Because now with the name recognition, like my brother talked about with Joe Boakai, with the older population and everybody, you gotta look at the voting population in Liberia, right? What percentage of that actually is the old population? And what percentage of that is actually going to show up for Joseph Boakai, especially now that people have started to dig into his time in politics for those 40 plus years, going as far back as what was the coffee buying entity with the Liberian government had, going back there from Lofa County and asking all of those questions during the Doe era when he was accused of corruption. All of those things are going to come up. And so now when you're looking at who takes the country forward after all of because the CPP conversation is that we are in a stagnation at best if we're not going backward as a country under George Weah. So in order for a CPP candidate to make their point and say, I am the person that takes you forward from this economic and kleptocratic stagnation or backwardness, then it has to be me. But look at me, look at my hands, right? You have to show up with clean hands at that point. And I don't think Joseph Boakai can do that with the fact that he sat 12 years with Ellen. The Ellen factor still comes back in. Folks are still going to judge Joe Boakai based on the pluses and minuses, the excesses of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's.
And Sizi, let me throw this at you. During campaign time, the narrative, will it be better? Should the CPP go with Boakai as their candidate, or will it be tougher? Vice versa, should they end up with Cummings as their candidate? Will the narrative be better for them, or will it be tougher for them?
It depends on what they choose to be the talking points and what they choose to be the biggest part of their platforms. Mm-hmm. Right? We're looking at change, hope for change for hope, whatever way they call it. We're looking at that right now, right? Mm-hmm. They both have not come together, right? The change is coming. The hope has not arrived. Now, the change can be negative or positive. I keep telling my kids, change is slope. Slope can be negative, it can be positive. I think I will change your life. I can take you from being a millionaire to a broker. I change your life. You can't call me a liar. So the change for hope, the change has come. I don't know about the hope, but if the CPP's point is going to be, we are the alternative, like the GAM is the alternative. So we can't continue to do things the way other people do it. If the CPP is going to say we are the alternative to George Weah, we are going to talk about the kleptocratic ecosystem. I'm not going to forget about that ecosystem. But the kleptocratic ecosystem, right? Yeah. Then you cannot be one of those living elements in that ecosystem to come out and say, yes, I get to be the one that affect the evolution of this ecosystem that changed that. And I think it will be harder for a Joe. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it'll be very difficult for a Joe Boakai, knowing the most recent excesses of the Ellen government, to come back and say, yes, I, as the number 2 man, regardless of whether people say he didn't have, he wasn't making decisions, blah, 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 it would be difficult for him to say, I, as the number 2 man for 12 years, of sitting in a regime that has been accused of corruption, to come and say, yes, in this kleptocratic, corrupt ecosystem, I get to be that one person that affect the change of this ecosystem. It's going to be difficult. I think it's a lot easier for an Eric Cummings, an outsider who has not lived in that ecosystem, to say, yes, I can change that. Again, there are minuses to that, because people will say, well, you don't understand what are the conditions in that ecosystem. If you haven't lived in Fiama, Buka Swamp in Weze, it's difficult for you as a Buka coming from St. John River to say how that's going to happen.
All right,
you don't know what's happening in Weze.
Thank you. And Joe, let me give you that similar follow-up question.
Absolutely.
And this is what I want to throw in there. Sizi, in America, they call it swam, and Trump was using a drain the swam. And so, Joe, looking at the narrative, depending on which candidate the CPP goes with, will it be harder or will it be easier?
Absolutely. I agree with the last points of Sizi, but let me indicate here that Boakai is guilty by association. And that's the verdict of the public court. In the United States, I know that Joe, who is now president, stayed in government so long. I know that his ancestors hunted him during the elections when it comes to his son Hunter Biden, corruption, and trying to also declare him guilty for the fact that that's the son. The issue of the busing raised by Kamala Harris, who's now his vice president, and the issue of racist statements that he made in the past. And those were all intended to bring him down and for him not to succeed. And also his long years in politics, older than some of us. I remember he became a senator at the age of 29. He was 29 years old when he became senator and stayed in government until now at this point. In Liberia, but the difference with Liberia is that this is a sophisticated society. So if you go to Delaware and go to Pennsylvania or come here to Connecticut, my state, people make independent decisions. No matter how you can render people useless in this country, there are others who see a positive side of that particular person because of their independent judgment. In Liberia, the case is different. Joseph Boakai, I'm sure, is very much aware that should he become the head of the ticket, that he's going to be faced with some of the challenges that have been in the news for a very long time, whether from the Macintosh relationship, about the agriculture project. People wouldn't even want to delve into the reality in terms of whether or not his hands were clean or his hands were cut in a cookies jar, or when it comes to other issues that they were raised. Boakai, I'm sure he's very much aware of that. But the way people vote in Liberia is not about independence. It's not about making informed decisions. It's about tribal connections. It's about intimate relationship. It's about the role of the person in your economic life. That's the way people make decisions voting in Liberia. The very few who are objective are the people in very few of the counties because of the educational opportunities they have and some little window to be able to read between the lines and make decisions on the basis of that. In Monserrato, you will have, but still in Monserrato, people will vote based on the role of the candidate in their economic life. That's the difficulty with our situation. You will not go to Bon County and largely say something negative about Joseph Boakai. You will not go to Lofa County and largely say something negative about Joseph Boakai with all the excesses that he has that people know about. It's going to be difficult for you to succeed in swaying voters who are already committed to vote for Boakai, no matter how you turn it. You wouldn't come to Monserrato, where large population of the people from Lofa and other appealing counties are, who already decide that rain or shine, they will vote for Boakai. You wouldn't go to other places and convince people who have decided to vote for Cummings, not even the excesses that you talk about. They have decided to vote for Cummings, they will vote for Cummings. And after 2022 election, the following election, they will still go and vote for Cummings, no matter how situation changes from now to that time. So the voting trend in Liberia is a different scenario altogether. It's not about the policies and the issues. Otherwise, George Weah could not even be president, because George Weah did not run on a platform that was convincing to the Liberian people that he saw on the basis of that. He ran on his academic standing. On his academic standing as a celebrity.
Thank you, Joe.
And people largely voted him on the basis of that. Some people you interview, you may ask them whatever, we are to tell you, I like him. Why you like him? They have their own reasons to say that. The dynamics might change a little bit. That's why I said there will be little bit slight movement, upward and downward in the last stats from the elections that we had. And we will come back here after 2023 and we will delve into this conversation and come back to what we are having today. You will see some of the reality that won't change at that particular time because of what our voting trend is like in the country. So yes, the national, the international appeals are significant. They are important, but they will not move the post much. They won't move the post much.
Thank you. Well, folks, this is Game TV, a media platform of the grassroots alternative movement. We want you to join this movement, this platform, so that we can create an alternative for all Liberians and an alternative for our country, Liberia. Gentlemen, time is our enemy. I'm enjoying the analysis, but we're gonna do one thing here. And I will bring in a question and then I will ask for your prediction. All the analysis, all the plenty thing you're talking, you got to tell me who's going to win. And that is a challenge to you. So my question I'll be bringing next, all things considered, with whom does the CPP stand a better chance? And after that, for your closing, you will tell me what is your prediction for the CPP, primary and presidential. But before we do that, let me bring in the people for whom we are here, the Liberian people that are watching. Let's read some comments from them. This one, Alex Divine. Let me can listen to politics small, yeah. All right. In the Liberian balance there. Mr. Divine again. I like the stability and international map, but please add track record. It should be very key. Issue very key. I don't know what he's trying to say there. All right, let's hear from Stephen here. Very good points, he said. Agreeing with he said there. Let's hear from Siafa Bala. I'm watching from Western Australia, gentlemen, all the way. Thanks to you guys for the great topic, he said. This person said JMB. That's a JMB supporter there. You're right. We need a marketable candidate. This person writes. And then here from George T. Marshall Jr., JMB, our choice. That's a JMB guy. Steven, JMB has the numerical base, he writes. And then here from Talawaya Jeba, we will take no southeastern person here. Yeah, you know, folks who are from the north say, you know, we are. The guys didn't get the job done. We tired, we are the southeastern. I understand. Say you will never get through. Oh, let me leave that comment. Let's hear from Stephen again. Numbers don't lie. The just ended election results can relate. Cummings campaign all in Maryland County, Maryland couldn't deliver, but GMB lift up BJS and won over 28,000 votes from Lofa. Somebody said. Joel Smith here said JMB. Let's hear from Massaquoi watching. You guys, thank you for watching. Honorable Elizana B. Cummings is the only alternative for Liberia and the face for the CPP Camp 2023. Liberia deserves better leadership. This person right. Yeah, from Toure, JMB. There are a lot of JMB fans here. I believe it. I don't know why you believe here. Leaders of the political parties in the CPP need to make concessions. The person right. Let's hear from Baton Kula. Hey, you guys gave Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf too much credit. Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf is nothing with her international contact. You believe that? Her connections to U.S. diplomats and possibly the fact that she's a U.S. asset. I don't know. Baton Kula. Let's hear from Mr. Kroman here. Ellen will not play any part in choosing delegate, or she will not influence any decision based on her attitude toward the UP. During NIMBA primary, money was playing around, and this led to Ure Chinchin, the delegate, in the down meeting. And that's why we're talking about money, right? Let's hear from a proud member of this movement, false disclosure there, Aaron Waluba, watching two of Liberia's great sons of the soil. I salute you guys. Thank you for watching there. Comrade, let's hear from Mr. Collier. Thanks, guys, for this conversation. It's insightful. Hey, When game is here, you get something very insightful. If President Weah were not in the 2023 election, I would take Cummings over JMB. That is, I think, Ferguson 1 year. Gentlemen, outstanding comments from the folks that have viewed us, but I got something surprising for you guys. With all the analysis we've done, let me show you. Focus on Liberia has been conducting an opinion poll. And here are the results. And I want to emphasize here, gentlemen, let me bring all of you back to the full screen here. I want to emphasize, you guys know I'm affiliated with Focus on Liberia. The numbers that you see is based on which candidate supporters heavily participated into the pool. So it does not in any way suggest that this person is winning, but that is just, opinion that we sampled so far. So we asked the question, Focus on Liberia asked the question, who should head the CPP ticket? The year our latest poll, from 475 responses that we got, Josiah Boakai, 33.5%, Elizana Belande Cummings, 54.2%. This should be 54.0%. I made that error there. Then Abraham Daros Dillon, 12.5%. So, gentlemen, looking at what we have there, and we want to emphasize here from Focus on Liberia perspective, we believe most of those that participated are heavily leaning folks from the ANC or for Mr. Elizana Belande Cummings. Does that tell us anything before I bring in my last question, your prediction? Joe?
That's over 400 persons. That's significant. But is that the way it's going to go in the primary? That's a different issue.
That's a different issue.
Is that the way it's going to go at the national level for the presidency? That's a different ballgame altogether. In the CPP primary, let's underscore this. You are going to have equal number of delegates. So it's going to be on the leadership expertise of the candidates, the approaches that will be able to garner the votes that they need.
All right.
But your will-be question that you want to ask me and Sizi as to who definitely going to win the primary and eventually who's going to win the presidency if they win the primary. I will tell you that I'm not going to predict anything here because of the calculations currently ongoing for the CPP primary. It's anybody's game in the CPP primary. Anybody games to win that. So I'm not going to delve into that specifically to tell you Boakai will win, Cummings will win. Prior to this show, you saw my analysis that I made. And my position is that, hey, these guys, to be able to meet their goal that is set after the 2017 election, to stay together and face George Weah and be able to defeat him at the polls, they will have to seek a consensus in making decisions of their ticket, informing their ticket. That's the best way. You don't want to take any chance that will create a third party. Any third party, George Weah succeeds himself. If you create a third party from the CPP arrangement, George Weah succeeds himself because none of those two parties will definitely win or defeat George Weah. They are going to be up against the national machinery. That's the machinery they're going to be up against with everything at its disposal. George Weah is going to be the heir of the ticket of a national machinery that anybody who has the ticket in the CPP is going to be up against. You need the political capital of George Weah. You need the corporate leadership capital of Cummings. You need it. You really need it. So for me, their approach should be a consensus approach. You do not want to have a devastating primary, devastating in the sense that, hey, you pick a candidate, you pick somebody to be heir of the ticket, and at the end of the day, the next person defects and runs on a separate ticket. You don't want. I see that coming very well because there's a vicious situation. You have external factors involved. You have people who are not okay with that in the CPP.
Thank you. And Sizi, all things considered, with whom does the CPP stand a better chance? That's my first question. My final question. And for your closing, what is your prediction for the CPP primary and presidential? And what advice will you give for the CPP? Joe is advising do consensus. forget about primary because the bruises might be bitter to swallow. Go ahead.
So let me take you back to the data you show, because I'm a numbers guy. I'm a mathematician.
Okay.
First thing, that is not scientific, but having accepted that, let me tell you where I expected that, and oh wow, what I expected was what Cummings show up. The ANC is a political party that has a very strong cyber presence. Very strong, and it's a good thing. They have a very strong online presence, and so if you see Cummings having all of those things, that is like, well, yeah, I kind of expected that. Like I said from the beginning, if you come up on Facebook or anywhere you say something that is not too flattering to Cummings, don't open your Facebook account, right? Because the ANC is, with respect to all political parties in Liberia, has a very strong online presence. The low disappointment is with Delon, though, because Delon also has a very strong Facebook following. So for me, that was the only disappointment. I didn't expect much coming from the demographic that votes for Joe Boakai, because like Joekai said, they tend to be older. They tend not to participate in most of these other things. Having said that, here's the thing I would say, and I want to buttress what Joekai said, that anywhere we have a third-party candidate, the ruling party would win. And folks that need evidence of that, just look at District Number 9 in Massarauga County with Foko winning by just less than 100 votes over Franklin, where you had 8 other candidates that were from the CPP, including celebrated star Jean Sadiba running. And if you need another example, look at Nimba County, where the CPP imploded between Madam Edith Gonglowe and Tai Wangbe. And because of that, you have a Jeremiah Cohn today being a senator. So anywhere that the CPP does not hold, if there is a third-party candidate, hands down, George Weah becomes president, re-elected George Manuel Weah. Now, the problem is that the CPP is not doing itself any favors. I don't see any political member of the CPP that is learning from the political intermarriage of the Coalition for Democratic Change. Because remember, that coalition now looks like the Congress, because the coalition kind of have sidelined the Joe Taylor group of the NPP. Also has sidelined the Alex Tyler group. Remember, Alex Tyler at one point was appointed to be on a board, and there was a lot of talk about it, and he got withdrawn. This is a member to the coalition, got withdrawn, and so you're withdrawing somebody because of public sentiment, who is a member of the coalition, yet they have not withdrawn any sedition in government because of public sentiment. So that political intermarriage between for the ruling establishment, the CPP should be taking lessons from there. One of the biggest problems was that people or individual political entities did not teach their constituents to be politically mature, to accept that in a relationship, which is what this is, in a political arrangement, that we might not get everything we want. But we have to be okay for the good of the total of the entirety. We have to be okay with not getting our ways every time. It's just like marriage. You're not going to get your way every time. But I think our political groups have not been able to do that because, again, in Liberia, I keep saying we don't have political parties, we have courts. Because the leaders of those political parties are not politicians. They look at themselves as benefactors to the people. And so because of that, our people, they don't take the time to teach law. In the ANC, if we lose, yes, that's okay. If it's fair, let's move on. Let's support Boakai. In the UP, if we lose, it's okay. Let's move on. Let's support Cummings. I don't see anybody doing that teaching. And so if you ask me for an advice, that would be my biggest advice, is they have to start now looking internally. How do they have those conversations, that knowing that the both of them can win? The both of them can be leaders at the top of the ticket. Something's gonna have to give. How are you preparing your people so that we don't go back to the 2017 situation where Cummings sat down on the sidelines and refused to publicly endorse Joseph Boakai?
Thank you.
So we have to get back to that point.
Thank you, gentlemen. I don't want the conversation to end, but every good thing must come to an end. Those of you who follow us, I don't know you can find the analysis anywhere else other than Gain TV. This is where we do it responsibly, we do it civilly, but we are firm as we discuss. We want to say thank you for joining us here at Game TV. We might do a special tomorrow because the analysis will continue. I still have questions for these smart guys. I didn't even ask 2% of my questions. So, gentlemen, I will seek a commitment from you guys. If you can come here tomorrow, I will discuss the details with you. But, gentlemen, throughout your discussion, there's something that I agree with here. A unified CPP will do it, and they should do it. Thank you, guys. This is how we'll come to the end. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, folks.
Bye.